Naturally, that would mean celebration, but the BNP has asked supporters to avoid victory processions. Instead, they have called for prayers. In fact, Tarique Rahman himself was seen heading to one. Now, Rahman's story reads like a political thriller. He is the son of former President Ziaur Rahman and former Prime Minister Khalida Zia. In the year 2007, he was arrested in an anti-corruption crackdown. Soon after that, he left for London. He was convicted in absentia. It was only last year, in 2025, that the charges against him were dropped. And in December 2025, he returned to the country. His mother died a few days later. So he became the BNP chief, and now he has won a landslide. So is this democratic redemption, or is this dynastic politics reborn? Well, that depends on who you ask. But right now, congratulations are pouring in from across the globe. The first was India. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Tarique Rahman. He also called him soon after. Prime Minister Modi said that he is committed to the progress and prosperity of Bangladesh. And this is quite significant because remember, Sheikh Hasina is still in India. She has rejected this election. The BNP has said that they will push for her extradition, and the Indian Prime Minister has congratulated the BNP chief. So this relationship starts with both warmth and tension.
Press for her extradition according to law. This is in between Foreign Ministry of Bangladesh and Foreign Ministry of India. We also ask the government of India to please send her back of facing the threat in our country.
Tarique Rahman is likely to take oath tomorrow. He will be the country's first male prime minister in 36 years. In all these years, it was just two women, Sheikh Hasina and Khalida Zia. So he's going to be the first man in the chair in 36 years. Which brings us to those who've taken the second place. The Jamaat-e-Islami and their allies. They have won anywhere between 76 to 77 seats. Now, this is a party that was banned for more than a decade. They once struggled to cross 18 seats. Now they have quadrupled their presence in parliament. So the Jamaat is not fringe anymore. Their coalition partner was the NCP, the National Citizen Party. It was formed in February 2025. This party was made up, or is made up, of student leaders, the ones who toppled Sheikh Hasina in 2024. And this was meant to be Bangladesh's big Gen Z moment. So you would think that this party would do well. But for all the hype, they got just 6 seats. The so-called Gen Z party crashed on landing. And this is not surprising. A, they lack an organizational structure. And B, they made a deal with the devil. They tied up with the Jamaat, the party that supported Pakistan's genocide in 1971, the party whose leader called working women prostitutes. The Jamaat did not field a single woman candidate in this election. So perhaps their past and their hardline position hurt their partner, the NCP. Then we have the Awami League. They were banned from contesting the election. This is the party of Sheikh Hasina. She has called the polls deceptive.
From the evening of 11th February, this farce began through the capture of polling centers, gunfire, the widespread use of money to buy votes, stamping ballot papers, and taking agents' signatures on result sheets. In this situation, we demand the cancellation of this voterless, illegal, and unconstitutional election, the resignation of Yunus.
The Jamaat and the NCP are also complaining. The Jamaat has raised concerns about the unofficial results. They say that there are inconsistencies, administrative bias, and delay in publishing turnout data. They're not rejecting the election outright, but they are signaling distrust in parts of the process.
We expect that as soon as the government releases the official results, we will call you, the journalists, again to share our final views on the election. You can be assured that our stance will be positive, focused on constructive and people-centered politics, not party politics. We will not oppose simply for the sake of opposing.
The NCP too says that their leaders were tagged, although they did not name the BNP. And like we told you yesterday, this was a dual vote. Bangladesh did not just elect a new leader, they also voted on a referendum on constitutional reforms. And it asked one big yes or no question. Should the July charter reforms be implemented or not? That was the question, and the resounding answer was yes. It had roughly 60% support. This means Bangladeshis have voted for constitutional amendments. So now they will have two houses of parliament instead of one. Right now they have only one. There will be term limits for a prime minister. The president will have more power. Rights will be protected more strongly. There will be more women in parliament and reforms for judicial independence. The people have voted for all of this. So what does this election result really mean? For the BNP, the people have chosen them. The expectations are sky high. And as winners, they will have to deliver on their promises.
We need to provide, bring businesses in the country so that jobs can be created, people can have a better life. We need to provide medical service for our people. We need to provide, rebuild the education system for our people. There are many challenges. And to fight these challenges, of course, in this world, a single country cannot fight it. They need friends, of course. We need friends.
Now look at this election result from the Jamaat's perspective. They have positioned themselves as the future challengers. If the BNP fails to deliver, they are waiting in the wings. So the student uprising of 2024 has finally translated into institutional reform. But now comes the real test. As they say, winning is the easy part. Governing is where fate changes again. So the BNP is set to rule. The Jamaat will sit in the opposition. But what about Sheikh Hasina and her party, the Awami League? Is this the end of their political journey? For starters, the Awami League was banned from contesting. They could not put up candidates for this election. So it's impossible to know how they would have fared. Plus, Sheikh Hasina has completely rejected this poll. Listen to what she said. The people's voting rights, democratic values and the spirit of the constitution were completely disregarded in this deceptive, voterless election conducted without the Awami League. People rejected this fraudulent election, leaving most polling centres effectively empty. Hasina's statement was quite sharp. She called the elections illegal and unconstitutional. The problem is, her claim has no takers. Nearly 400 election observers were in Bangladesh yesterday. They concluded that the elections were fair. Yes, there was some sporadic violence and irregularity, but overwhelmingly, the verdict was positive. The question is, what does this mean for Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League? Have they lost their political power? Maybe not. And I'll give you two reasons why. Number one, the voter turnout was not impressive. Only 60% of the people turned out to vote yesterday. Compare that to the election in 2008. That election, the 2008 election, is widely seen as Bangladesh's last fully fair poll. And the turnout in that election was 87%. 87% in 2008 and just 60% in 2026. So what explains this drastic fall? It could be the Awami League factor. Experts say around 15 to 20% of the voters support Sheikh Hasina. If a chunk of them boycotted the election, this low turnout would make sense. Just look at the Gopalganj area. This used to be Sheikh Hasina's stronghold. It's home to her ancestral village and her long-time constituency. And in Gopalganj, the turnout was closer to 40%. Again, this suggests a widespread boycott. That's one reason to assume that Hasina still has support. Secondly, the people rejected Islamist politics. Opinion polls predicted a tough fight between the two blocs, between the BNP and the Jamaat, but in the end, the BNP won a landslide, which means that Bangladeshis still prefer moderate politics. Yes, the Islamists did better than before, but the overwhelming support came for the moderates. What does that tell you? That there is still room for Hasina style of politics, for moderation and tolerance. Which brings us to the most important question here. Can Sheikh Hasina make a comeback? Well, there is a massive legal roadblock. Sheikh Hasina has been convicted on charges of crimes against humanity. If she returns, she faces the death penalty. As long as these cases remain, Sheikh Hasina cannot return. And don't expect the BNP to go easy on her. Hasina's government had persecuted Tarique Rahman's mother, that's former Prime Minister Khalida Zia. She was jailed and later put under house arrest. So rest assured, there is bad blood. Also, the BNP is in a sweet spot right now. It is the only large moderate party in the fray. Why would they voluntarily bring back a competitor? Logic says they wouldn't. So the Awami League may remain a key player in Bangladesh, but their future depends on the next few years. The BNP has promised religious tolerance and economic justice. If they fulfill those promises, the Awami supporters may switch sides. But if they don't, a window may open. So this result is a double-edged sword for the party. On the one hand, their support base has not evaporated, that too despite almost 18 months of crackdowns and persecution. On the other hand, their chances of a comeback remain the same, as remote as in August 2024. Not just Sheikh Hasina, India too would have been watching this election closely. It was a crucial off-ramp for both nations, a chance to reset the relationship after months of tension. So will the BNP's victory ensure that? New Delhi is certainly optimistic. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was among the first to congratulate Tarique Rahman. He posted this message at around 9 a.m. India time. 9 a.m. today. At that point, nothing was official. All we had were unofficial results and trends, yet Prime Minister Modi congratulated Tarique Rahman. Let me quote from the message that he posted. This victory shows the trust of the people of Bangladesh in your leadership. India will continue to stand in support of a democratic, progressive and inclusive Bangladesh. I look forward to working with you to strengthen our multifaceted relations and advance our common development goals. There are two messages here. First, Prime Minister Modi clearly accepted the verdict. Unlike Sheikh Hasina, he did not question this election. Second, this was a quick outreach. It tells you that India is trying to be proactive. The Prime Minister posted the same message in Bengali as well, and then hours later, he spoke to Tarique Rahman. Again, let me quote from that conversation. Delighted to speak to Mr. Tarique Rahman. This is what he posted after the conversation. I conveyed my best wishes and support in his endeavor to fulfill the aspirations of the people of Bangladesh. As two close neighbors with deep-rooted historical and cultural ties, I reaffirmed India's continued commitment to the peace, progress, and prosperity of both our peoples. Now, we are not sure, but chances are that Prime Minister Modi was the first foreign leader to speak to Tarique Rahman. And this outreach, by the way, did not start today. You can trace it way back to 2024. After Sheikh Hasina was ousted, India recalibrated its position. The Indian ambassador reached out to the BNP leadership. Last year, when Khalida Zia was hospitalized, Prime Minister Modi posted a message. He prayed for her quick recovery. Unfortunately, the former Prime Minister passed away, and India sent its foreign minister to attend the funeral, that too with a letter written by Prime Minister Modi. So this outreach was months in the making. The question is, will it lead to a reset? Well, New Delhi has avoided the worst-case scenario. That would have been a Jamaat victory, the worst-case scenario. Thankfully, it's not that. Plus, the Yunus regime has degraded ties to rock bottom. I'm sure India will be happy to see a new elected regime, a government with an actual mandate in Dhaka. The BNP has thanked Prime Minister Modi for his congratulatory message. They say there is hope to strengthen bilateral ties.
Well, we hope that the relationship between two neighboring countries and the people of these two countries will be strengthened. We thank Prime Minister Narendra Modi for congratulating our leader, Tarique Rahman. It's great that a democratic country is supposed to recognize the verdict of the people, and Mr. Narendra Modi has done this. we thank him.
So far, so good. But will the BNP walk the talk? A reset is certainly possible, but a return to the old status quo? That's virtually impossible. Hasina's ties to India went beyond diplomacy. She had personal and emotional connections to this land. She was very close to being the ideal ally. But the BNP will not be like that. They have a history of animosity with India. Their foreign policy is likely to hedge on many partners. For instance, Pakistan. Their Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also congratulated Tarique Rahman, but a phone call is yet to happen. The BNP has also cultivated ties with China and the United States. They have plans to become a member of ASEAN, and they are promising closer ties to the Gulf region. So expect the BNP to pursue multi-alignment and also expect some friction. The BNP is likely to play hardball on certain issues, like water sharing from rivers, or returning illegal migrants, or tightening border control. These are realities that India must live with. The good news is Tarique Rahman appears to be a pragmatist. He is not riding the anti-India wave like Yunus. He is seeking to build a partnership of equals. I'm sure New Delhi wouldn't mind that. In recent years, our diplomats have gotten used to difficult neighbors, whether it's the Muizzu regime in the Maldives or the Taliban in Afghanistan. From India's side, the hand of friendship is ready. It's a question of whether Tarique Rahman will take it.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
In a trade report, Pakistan says attack US after a US trade representative correctly showed Pakistan occupied Kashmir and trade within the Indian territory, which Washington deleted the post as well. Learning. Let's first up reaction from Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson. What he said, the communication that took place between Pakistan and the United States will be over. Good evening and a warm welcome. I'm Reha Atul and you're watching Plain Speak. In the thick of Tamil Nadu's high-stakes election season, a routine campaign rally in Salem took an unexpectedly somber turn. A 37-year-old man identified as Suraj collapsed during a public meeting addressed by the TVK President Vijay and was later declared dead in hospital, reportedly of a heart attack. On the surface, the incident may read as a tragic, isolated health emergency in a crowded political event. Yet, in a moment when every gesture is scrutinized and every misfortune is quickly woven into a larger fabric of electoral warfare, the death has already been seized upon by political rivals and commentators alike. For many, the shadow of the grim Karur crowd crush last year, in which at least 41 people died at a similar TVK rally, still looms large, making this unlucky coincidence feel less like a singular misfortune and more like a haunting refracted through the fevered prism of Tamil Nadu politics. While supporters of either side interpret this episode through their own partisan lenses against the backdrop of an upcoming assembly election, let's assess if Vijay's TVK will be able to navigate the optics when luck cruelly and unpredictably has turned against it. And while we look at this rather sensitive story, we are now getting in visuals from outside the hospital in Salem, where a scuffle reportedly broke out between some journalists and the TVK cadres. The journalists are now alleging that the cadre tried to attack them. More details are still awaited, but these are the visuals that you can see and make an assessment for yourself. Journalists who were trying to do their job, trying to get some kind of information on what really led to the tragic death of Suraj, whether it was heat stroke, a heart condition, a heart attack, all of this. While that was supposed to happen, the TVK cadres had a scuffle with these journalists who were waiting for that information from inside the hospital. Let me take this across to my special guest who now joins us on the broadcast. Mr. Rajagopalan is with us on Plain Speak tonight. Mr. Rajagopalan, while we try and make an assessment on how does one read the dynamics now, another tragic incident has occurred at another one of Vijay's rally. That's rather unfortunate. He's unlucky that this sort of has plagued him from Karur to now in Salem with one person's death. But clearly this is going to be taken up with every political rival of the TVK.
Yes, yes. It's a very sad story, madam. But Edapadi Palaniswamy, the leader of opposition, also commented that if you want to ascend Vijay Saji, you have to take the coffin along with you. That type of sarcasm also being added. But at the same time, it's a very sad tragedy. TVK workers, cadre should not have assaulted the newsmen because we belong to the same fraternity. Nothing should be touched upon the newspaper because you cannot shoot the messengers. Second, there are 2 deaths also in Udayanidhi's Deputy Chief Minister's rally today. So therefore, we have to talk about it. When the state government has also asked for the standard operating procedure before the High Court of Chennai, the police is going to implement that. Whatever you do, the sentiments of the Vijay cadre is so aggressive, charismatic leader of Mr. Vijay stature. There are 8 to 9 ambulances kept.
The reason we need this reset is because of one man, interim ruler Mohammad Yunus. He did not contest this election. His plan is to hand over power as quickly as possible. But what next for him? What lies ahead for Mohammad Yunus? What will be his next mission? I would be surprised if there is one. After all, Yunus is 85 years old. He was virtually brought out of retirement to rule Bangladesh. So another taxing role appears unlikely. He's got close friends in Washington think tanks and NGOs, the same ones who defended his disastrous rule over the country. I'm sure they will find some role for him. After all, he's got a Nobel Prize to fall back on. But how will history judge Mohammad Yunus? What will be his legacy in Bangladesh? In one sentence, he will be remembered as the man who misread his mandate. Yunus was brought in to stabilize Bangladesh, to put down the unrest, restore law and order, hold quick elections and leave. That's the mandate for any interim ruler. But Mohammad Yunus wanted to make deep-seated changes. He claimed that Bangladesh's political system was completely broken, so he decided to fix that. He decided he would do it, although that was not his job. Reforms should have been implemented by elected lawmakers, not Yunus and his cabal of radical students. And we'll come to those reforms in a bit. But broadly speaking, Yunus will be remembered for 3 things. Number 1, the man who unleashed the Islamists. Sheikh Hasina had banned the Jamaat-e-Islami in 2013. She kept their radical politics locked away. Many of their top leaders were also put in jail, but Yunus reversed that. First, he lifted the ban on the Jamaat, then he freed their leaders from jail, and this led to a huge rise in radical Islamist violence in the country. We saw that in December last year. Mobs went on a rampage in Dhaka. They attacked media houses. They burnt public property. Yes, they failed to win the elections. But now they're part of Bangladesh's mainstream. And that's completely on Yunus. That's his legacy. Number 2, Yunus will be remembered for his foreign policy failures. As an interim leader, Yunus should have stayed clear of foreign policy. But he did the opposite. He went on 14 foreign trips in 18 months. He attended the UN General Assembly, he attended the World Economic Forum, he even attended the Pope's funeral. None of these were necessary or even appropriate, yet Yunus was not discouraged. He saw himself as an elder statesman, a leader who would command respect and awe. Some of his policies had a wide-ranging impact, like his outreach to Pakistan. Yunus started a direct shipping route between Pakistan and Bangladesh. He also restarted direct flights between the two countries. Then this week, he signed a trade deal with America. Imagine that. You have 3 days until the people elect a government, but you choose to sign a trade deal anyway. No consultation, no public approval, and don't forget his weird obsession with the SAARC. SAARC is the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. Mohammad Yunus tried desperately to revive this group. But India made its opposition very clear. New Delhi wanted Pakistan to seize cross-border terrorism first. Only then would SAARC be revived. In hindsight, it's hard to find the logic in Yunus's moves. Was there strategy or malice in his policies? Was it a desperate attempt to leave a lasting legacy? Either way, the impact was negative, which brings us to the last thing that Yunus will be remembered for: a botched reform agenda. Yunus and his team drafted around 80 reforms in total, 80. These include creating of a second house in parliament, limiting prime ministerial terms, strengthening the judiciary, and stronger election rules. These 80 reforms were split into 4 categories, and the people were asked to vote. You either reject all 80 reforms or you accept all 80 of them. It's a guide on how not to hold a referendum. Like we said, more than 60% of the voters approved it. Yunus is hoping that these reforms will be his lasting legacy. Unfortunately for him, that is not guaranteed. The BNP has been lukewarm on Yunus's reform package, so the next government can simply sit on them. They can debate, delay, and dismantle them. Which makes you wonder, what was the point of Mohammad Yunus's interim rule? He damaged Bangladesh's economy. He antagonized Bangladesh's allies. He unleashed radical Islamist groups, and his reforms may never get the green light. Forget improving Bangladesh. Yunus is leaving the country worse than he got it. Our next story is about Cuba. Cuba is grappling with a serious energy crisis. Fuel supplies have dried up, power outages go on for hours every day, buses and trains have been scaled back, and tourists are leaving the island country. So what has triggered this crisis? The answer lies in Washington. The US has blocked Cuba's oil imports. It has threatened other nations against helping Havana. This is all part of a pressure campaign. So what does the US want from Cuba? Our next report explains.
The fuel pumps are running dry across Cuba, and millions are now living in the dark. Power cuts stretch for hours. Queues at petrol stations snake through city streets. And buses and trains are running less often. At night, people navigate their homes by touch or makeshift torches.
At night here, I can't even see the walls. I hit myself by hitting the walls as well as the fridge and the front door because I can't see. A neighbor gave me a bottle with oil so that I could make a torch.
Taxi drivers say the situation is getting worse.
The fuel situation is chaotic. There's no fuel. There used to be 30, 40, 50 cars here. Now only 4 or 5 are working because there's no fuel. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
Even tourists are fleeing. Airlines are suspending flights or refueling outside the island as jet fuel shortages grow. Meanwhile, hotels are closing their doors.
Right now, there's no flights coming in, so unfortunately, we won't be back soon, but we will come back when everything's okay.
Tourism is a lifeline for Cuba's economy. Now that lifeline is fraying. Behind the crisis is a political squeeze orchestrated from Washington. Cuba depends heavily on imported oil to run its power grid, transport, and industry. But those supplies have been choked off. The pressure began in January. This is after the US forces carried out a military operation in Venezuela and captured President Nicolas Maduro. Venezuela had been one of Cuba's main oil suppliers, but Maduro's capture cut those supplies for Havana. Now, Washington has gone further. It has threatened tariffs on any country that sends fuel to Cuba. The move has scared off key partners. The US has also declared Cuba an extraordinary threat. President Donald Trump says the Cuban government is on the brink.
Cuba will be failing pretty soon. Cuba is really a nation that's very close to failing. You know, they got their money from Venezuela, they got the oil from Venezuela, they're not getting that anymore.
Analysts say the strategy is designed to force concessions or regime change. Havana has responded with rationing. Fuel is being prioritized for hospitals, agriculture, and water systems. Schools and workplaces are adjusting their schedules. The country's president says Cuba is ready to talk to the US, but only on equal terms.
Cuba is willing to engage in dialogue with the United States, dialogue on any issue that needs to be discussed or debated. Under what conditions? Without pressure.
Some of Cuba's allies are trying to help. Mexico has sent ships with food and supplies. China and Chile have also pledged assistance.
I would like to reiterate that China firmly supports Cuba in safeguarding its national sovereignty and security, opposes foreign interference, and resolutely opposes any actions or inhumane acts that deprive the Cuban people.
But fuel deliveries remain uncertain. The current standoff has deep roots. The US and Cuba have been locked in hostility for decades. Mistrust runs deep. Now, the stakes are rising again. The US wants influence and concessions. Cuba wants relief without surrendering control. But for ordinary Cubans, the fallout is already here, and there is no end in sight.
It looks like Donald Trump is in a race against time. In a matter of weeks, the US has announced multiple trade deals with India, with Bangladesh, with Argentina, and now with Taiwan. The latest one came yesterday. The White House signed a trade pact with Taiwan. They had struck a deal last month. They tied up the loose ends and signed it yesterday. And what does the deal say? Well, same as the other deals. Taiwan will invest in America, it will buy more American products, and it will slash tariffs on US goods by up to 99%. And what does Taiwan get in return? Lower tariffs in the US. Earlier, Taiwan's exports faced a steep 35% tariff in the US. Trump is reducing it to 15%. Plus, there are other concessions, so the effective tariff rate for Taiwan would be around 12%.
We have also secured tariff exemptions for 261 agricultural products, including Phalaenopsis orchids, tea, ingredients for bubble tea, coffee, anthuriums, taro, guava, juice, jams, pineapples, and mangoes, as well as 1,811 industrial products. In total, 2,072 Taiwanese products will be exempt from reciprocal tariffs, reducing the average tariff when imported into the United States from 35.78% to 12.33%.
Of course, this deal is not just about numbers and trade. This is more about influence. America wants control over Taiwan's semiconductor supply chain. And this deal is Donald Trump's opening move. Look at the biggest headline in the deal, the promise on semiconductor chips. The US says that Taiwan will spend $500 billion on chip making in America. $500 billion, that's $250 billion in investment, $250 billion, and another $250 billion as credit. So $500 billion for semiconductor production in the United States. It's a major financial commitment, and it's not the only one. Taipei has also promised over $44 billion for LNG and crude oil, $15 billion for American aircraft and engines, and $25 billion for power generation equipment. These are significant sums, but compared to the $500 billion on chips, they're just a sideshow. And the US is not even being subtle about its intentions. Consider what Howard Lutnick has been saying. He is Trump's Secretary of Commerce, and he has publicly declared America's endgame. He says the US wants to take over Taiwan's semiconductor industry. The US wants to control a large chunk of it. That's what Howard Lutnick has said. And he even put a number to it. The US wants 40% of the current supply chain. They want to move it from Taiwan to the United States, and they want to do it with Taiwanese money. That too before Trump's presidential term ends. Now, Taiwan, as you know, is a chip giant. It produces 60% of the chips used across the world and 90% of the most advanced chips. They're all made in Taiwan. And they power modern life, from your smartphones to EVs to AI models, quantum computing, and even advanced weapon systems. They all depend on Taiwanese chips. They depend on TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. It has a global monopoly in semiconductors. TSMC has a 71% market share in the global chip market. Its components are used by all major players like Nvidia, Apple, and Google. So major tech giants depend on TSMC, and by extension, it gives Taiwan a unique protection. Experts call it the Silicon Shield. The logic is quite simple. If the world depends on Taiwan for chips, the world will protect Taiwan against China. And the China threat is real. China sees Taiwan as a breakaway province, a province that must eventually be unified with the mainland. But Taiwan rejects Beijing's control, and this has led to tension. In recent years, China has ramped up pressure. They've conducted massive military drills, record air and naval incursions, and blockade-style exercises around Taiwan. The Silicon Shield gave Taiwan an added layer of protection. Their best hope against China is American support. But that support is vague. The US sells them weapons, but does not explicitly say how it will help in the event of an attack. And now Trump's moves threaten the Silicon Shield. If Taiwan loses the semiconductor edge, it would be more vulnerable. And that is why there's a lot of pushback against this deal. It may not be the final pact. The language around these commitments is still vague. And even if Taiwan posts the kind of money that it is said to have promised, shifting supply chains won't be easy. Because this is an ecosystem that is built over decades. It includes not just the materials, but also critical supply networks and human capital. It won't be easy to quickly replicate this in the US. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out. Sure enough, China has reacted to the announcement of the deal. Here's what they said.
China firmly opposes the negotiating and signing of any agreement with sovereign connotations in an official nature between China's Taiwan region and countries having diplomatic relations with China. The U.S. needs to earnestly abide by the One China principle and the 3 China-U.S. joint communiques.
Donald Trump is set to travel to China in April, and the deal with Taiwan may be another sticking point. So the US president may have scored a win at home, but he's also opened a new front in an already tense region. Let's turn to South Africa, which is planning to send its army onto the streets. And this is not to quell a protest. They're sending the army to fight growing crime in the country. You see, South Africa has one of the highest murder rates in the world. Gang shootings happen in broad daylight. Illegal mining sites have turned into battlefields. The police say they're overwhelmed. So now South Africa's president has decided to deploy troops. His name is Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, and he's authorized the military to back up the police. So soldiers will now be sent to the worst affected areas of South Africa. Here's our report.
The sound of gunfire is no longer shocking. It has become familiar. In South Africa, violent crime is part of everyday reality. The country is facing a severe crisis. Police say about 63 people are killed every day. Many of those deaths are linked to gang wars, robberies, and turf battles over illegal mining. Illegal firearms are widely used despite strict gun laws. Shootouts erupt in crowded areas. Children have also been caught in the crossfire. The surge is rooted in deep socioeconomic inequalities, weak law enforcement, and high unemployment in the country. Together, they have created fertile ground for organized crime to flourish. South Africa reportedly has one of the highest crime rates on the continent. Cities like Pietermaritzburg, Pretoria, and Johannesburg allegedly rank among Africa's most dangerous. Cape Town and Durban also continue to struggle with violent crime. The violence is also drawing global attention. The United States, Canada, and Australia have issued travel warnings citing security risks. South Africa's reputation is taking a hit. So is investor confidence, and it has pushed the government to act. President Cyril Ramaphosa says organized crime is now the biggest threat to the country.
Organized crime is now the most immediate threat to our democracy, our society, and our economic development. Our primary focus this year is on stepping up the fight against organized crime and criminal syndicates.
His answer? Send in the army. Troops will be sent to the provinces of Western Cape and Gauteng. The mission is to stabilize communities, dismantle gangs, and shut down illegal mining. Soldiers will patrol alongside police and secure crime hotspots.
I have directed the Minister of Police and the SANDF to develop a technical plan on where our security forces should be deployed within the next few days in the Western Cape and in Gauteng to deal with gang violence and illegal mining.
The move marks a major shift in strategy. The president had previously ruled out sending troops into communities, but the violence has forced his hand. Data suggests the murder rate in South Africa is behind only Jamaica and Ecuador. Police admit they cannot defeat the gangs alone. The government also plans to recruit more than 5,000 new officers. Intelligence units will be strengthened, and priority crime syndicates will be targeted. Some political leaders have welcomed the move.
What you need in the fight against gangsterism is boots on the ground, and I think the president's made the right call this evening, and I'm sure that the city and the province will welcome the extra resources that are going to be required.
But skepticism persists. The rising crime has shaken public confidence and hurt economic growth. Restoring safety is now central to restoring trust, at home and abroad. Ramaphosa's coalition government is under pressure to deliver. For many South Africans, the hope is simple: safer streets and children walking home without fear. The deployment signals urgency, but whether it can reverse the tide of violence is far from certain.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
In a trade report, Pakistan says attack US after a US trade representative correctly showed Pakistan occupied Kashmir and trade within the Indian territory, which Washington deleted the post as well. Learning. Let's first play a reaction from Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson. What he said, the communication that took place between Pakistan and the United States will be over.
Good evening and a warm welcome. I'm Reha Atul and you're watching Plain Speak. In the thick of Tamil Nadu's high-stakes election season, a routine campaign rally in Salem took an unexpectedly somber turn. A 37-year-old man identified as Suraj collapsed during a public meeting addressed by the TVK President Vijay and was later declared dead in hospital, reportedly of a heart attack. On the surface, the incident may read as a tragic, isolated health emergency in a crowded political event. Yet, in a moment when every gesture is scrutinized and every misfortune is quickly woven into a larger fabric of electoral warfare, the death has already been seized upon by political rivals and commentators alike. For many, the shadow of the grim Karur crowd crush last year, in which at least 41 people died at a similar TVK rally, still looms large. making this unlucky coincidence feel less like a singular misfortune and more like a haunting refracted through the fevered prism of Tamil Nadu politics. While supporters of either side interpret this episode through their own partisan lenses against the backdrop of an upcoming assembly election, let's assess if Vijay's TVK will be able to navigate the optics when luck cruelly and unpredictably has turned against it. And while we look at this rather sensitive story, we are now getting in visuals from outside the hospital in Salem, where a scuffle reportedly broke out between some journalists and the TVK cadres. The journalists are now alleging that the cadre tried to attack them. More details are still awaited, but these are the visuals that you can see and make an assessment for yourself. Journalists who were trying to do their job, trying to get some kind of information on what really led to the tragic death of Suraj, whether it was heat stroke, a heart condition, a heart attack, all of this. While that was supposed to happen, the TVK cadres had a scuffle with these journalists who were waiting for that information from inside the hospital. Let me take this across to my special guest who now joins us on the broadcast. Mr. Rajagopalan is with us on Plain Speak tonight. Mr. Rajagopalan, while we try and make an assessment on how does one read the dynamics now, another tragic incident has occurred at another one of Vijay's rally. That's rather unfortunate. He's unlucky that this sort of has plagued him from Karur to now in Salem with one person's death. But clearly this is going to be taken up with every political rival of the TVK.
Yes, yes. It's a very sad story, madam. But Edapadi Palaniswamy, the leader of opposition, also commented that if you want to ascend Vijay Saji, you have to take the coffin along with you. That type of sarcasm also being added. But at the same time, it's a very sad tragedy. TVK workers, cadres should not have assaulted the newsmen because we belong to the same fraternity. Nothing should be, touched upon the newspaper because you cannot shoot the messengers. Second, there are 2 deaths also in Udayanidhi's Deputy Chief Minister's rally today. So therefore, we have to talk about it. When the state government has also asked for the standard operating procedure before the High Court of Chennai, the police is going to implement that. Whatever you do, the sentiments of the Vijay cadre is so, aggressive, charismatic leader of Mr. Vijay stature. There are 8 to 9 ambulances kept at the Salem meeting. This is unfortunate. Suddenly they could not reach. I heard the entire, speech of Mr. Vijay. The Vijay organizers also spotted many of the, healthcare prevention. They kept it. But it's a sad event. Vijay has to take the responsibility. It is not going to...
And here's a quick reminder, the second episode of our assassination series is dropping tomorrow. This one will focus on Egypt's former president, Anwar Sadat. He signed a peace deal with Israel and paid for it with his life. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. IST to catch this full story. The internet has found its new favorite excuse. US House Democrats were questioning Attorney General Pam Bondi. They were asking her why the associates of Jeffrey Epstein were not charged yet. And her answer? The Dow is over 50,000 points and it has since become an internet favorite. Next time your boss asks you why your work is not done, just tell him the stock markets are up.
Because she doesn't like the answer. I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
The witness is interrupted.
I'm not going to get in the gutter with this woman. She's doing theatrics.
Let me have.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, oh, I
anything.
did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer. Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000.
Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. NASA and SpaceX launch 4 crew members to the International Space Station. SWAT units from across the globe compete in the UAE in an international tactical showdown. And lionesses get Valentine's Day treats at a US zoo. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1945, Nazi-occupied Budapest fell to the Russians during the Second World War. This was after a 50-day siege. At least 50,000 Germans were killed in this. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.
Этот клочок земли на левобережной Украине превратился в гигантское кладбище живой силы противника.
Falcon, Go Dragon, and Godspeed Crew 12.
And liftoff, Freedom, 7 million pounds of thrust now propelling.
T plus 30 seconds into the Crew 12. 1 Bravo.
That call out for 1 Bravo
Copy,
means
1 Bravo.
we're...
Go! Alert! Alert!
Thanks a lot for staying with us here on CNN News 18. I'm Shivani Gupta and I'm joining you live from Colombo. We are here, of course, previewing the match that was scheduled, and it's always the big blockbuster clash of any World Cup between India and Pakistan. Then it was unscheduled, it was meant to be, then not meant to be, but finally it is happening even as I join you live from Colombo. So the India-Pakistan clash, of course, is always the marquee clash of any World Cup tie. But this one has had a very unique build-up. After 10 days of an impasse, the match is finally taking place, and there's been a lot said, especially in Pakistan, about the upcoming tie. India has, of course, been keeping its cards very close to its chest, just maintaining that they're ready to play this match as it happens and when it happens, and they're going to do their best against a side that they've dominated throughout the years, particularly in the T20 format as well. So even before we go to our guests, let's just remind our viewers of the history that we're talking about. As far as overall T20 internationals are concerned between the two sides, India has won 12 out of the 16 matches played, while Pakistan has won only 3. One match, their very first T20 match, was actually a tied match. But of course, it has also seen the highs of that inaugural T20 World Cup final as well. And then, of course, in 2022, you had that masterclass from Virat Kohli, so on and so forth. So a lot of chapters that have been written in this rivalry, a lot more possibly to add to. But when it comes to the T20 World Cup, there have been 8 matches played between the two sides. India is leading that record and head-to-head as well, 7-1. The only blemish that India has had in a World Cup encounter against Pakistan has been, of course, in the T20 World Cup. And let's also remind our viewers of that one T20 clash that the two teams played here in Colombo. That was as far back as 14 years. It was in 2012 that the two sides met, actually for the only time in a T20 World Cup clash in Colombo. So this is going to be a repeat of that. That was the era of Virendra Sehwag, Gautam Gambhir and Shahid Afridi and others from the Pakistani side. So it's been a long time since they've met each other as far as the Premadasa is concerned. Let's set this clash up for you. What can you really watch out for, and what are going to be the key issues for both sides ahead of this marquee clash?
After days of off-field tension, political noise and speculation over whether the match would even go ahead, the spotlight is finally back where it belongs, on the pitch. India versus Pakistan, the biggest rivalry in cricket, and this time it unfolds under the Colombo lights at the R. Premadasa Stadium. For all the drama that surrounded this fixture and the build-up, the equation is now simple. 2 teams, 1 stage and everything to play for. History in T20 World Cup leans heavily towards India. 8 meetings, 7 Indian wins, 1 solitary Pakistan triumph, that unforgettable 10-wicket night in Dubai in 2021. From the bowl-out drama of 2007 to Joginder Sharma's last over in the final to Virat Kohli's miracle at the MCG in 2022 and the 6-run thriller in New York in 2024. India have owned the big moments, but history guarantees nothing in T20 cricket.